The Caribbean Sea is supposed to be calm. Sunlight, blue water, slow waves. But tonight, that same water feels heavy, like it's holding its breath. And for a very real reason. Because right now, an entire region is being squeezed between two powers who claim they don't want to fight. Yet everything they're doing suggests the opposite. What's happening out here isn't routine. It isn't symbolic. It isn't even subtle. Something is unfolding in the Caribbean, and each new movement only makes the picture more alarming. Venezuela says it sees a threat. The United States says it sees instability. And between these two versions of the truth lies a tension thick enough to carve through steel. So the question becomes simple. Is this just a show of power, or the quiet beginning of something much bigger? Venezuela has been on alert before, but not like this, not with this level of urgency, not with the tone President Nicolas Maduro used when he ordered full combat readiness for his forces. It wasn't a symbolic announcement for TV cameras. It was a direct command that sent soldiers scrambling, bases activating, and defensive units taking positions across the northern coastline. 200,000 troops, an entire army, mobilized in a matter of hours. And behind closed doors, military advisors warned the government that the region could shift overnight if they didn't prepare. Officially, Venezuela says this is a reaction to direct U.S. aggression. Unofficially, rumors swirl of Russian and Iranian personnel offering quiet support. Nothing confirmed, nothing denied. But the whisper of foreign involvement is enough to raise eyebrows on every intelligence desk from Washington to Bogota. Still, Venezuela insists it isn't provoking anything. It claims it's only reacting, because in its eyes, the threat is already visible on the horizon, floating, massive, and unmistakable. And that brings us to the ship no one can ignore. But Venezuela wasn't the only one preparing for something. Someone else was already moving into place. The most advanced warship the United States has ever built is gliding through Caribbean waters like a shark. The USS Gerald R. a 100,000-ton nuclear-powered city of steel, has entered the picture. And it didn't come alone. On its deck, more than 70 aircraft sit ready. FA-18 Super Hornets armed and fueled. EA-18 Growlers humming with electronic warfare capability. E-2 Hawkeyes scanning hundreds of miles of sky. Below that deck, thousands of sailors and aviators living in tight corridors, waiting for orders no one hopes will come. Destroyers, Arleigh Burke class, cruisers, Ticonderoga class, support ships, submarines no one can see but everyone knows are there. This isn't a symbolic deployment. It's a strike group, a complete offensive system capable of launching air, sea, and land operations at the same time. Officially, the U.S. calls this regional presence. Unofficially, analysts wonder why this much firepower is necessary for simple navigation freedom. Venezuela calls it a provocation. Washington calls it stability. But the timing? Almost impossible to ignore. And the Ford wasn't the last thing to appear. More pieces were moving, pieces that hinted at something much deeper. Just weeks before the Ford entered the area, U.S. forces had begun a series of amphibious training operations across multiple islands and coastlines. On the surface, they looked like standard drills, but look closer, and they start fitting together like fragments of a much larger puzzle. Marines practicing beach landings with the new amphibious combat vehicle, designed specifically for storming hostile shores. Helicopters, Venoms and Vipers, flying low in formation, simulating close air support. Ships deploying landing craft toward unfamiliar beaches. None of that is unusual, unless you notice where it's happening. Just a few hundred miles from Venezuela. Too close for coincidence. Too structured to be random. Too coordinated to ignore. Whether the Pentagon admits it or not, these exercises match invasion patterns, step by step. And analysts have been quick to note the similarities. But if those drills were unsettling, what came next made even seasoned observers go quiet. While warships moved in the water, the air above the Caribbean began to change. Suddenly, new aircraft appeared, quietly, without official announcements. Reports confirmed that F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters were operating out of Puerto Rico. That alone changed the balance by an entire generation of technology. At the same time, MQ-9 Reaper drones started launching from nearby airfields, sometimes making 20-hour surveillance loops. P-8 Poseidon patrol planes circled constantly, searching for submarines and tracking naval patterns. And then came the ghost of the night, the AC-130 Ghost Rider, the most heavily armed gunship in the U.S. inventory. A plane built for surgical nighttime strikes, capable of seeing through darkness, clouds, and even concealment. Together, these aircraft formed a net over the region, a net designed for one purpose: to see everything. Nothing in or out of the Caribbean could move without being noticed. Not a ship, not a plane, not even a submarine surfacing for a moment. But if stealth fighters and gunships weren't enough, the next addition to the sky sent a chilling message. The moment analysts saw them, the tone changed. Because when the U.S. sends B-52 Stratofortress bombers and B-1 Lancers, it's not a casual signal. It's a strategic warning clipped in steel. B-52s can carpet an area with cruise missiles without ever crossing a border. B-1s can unleash